Hey everybody, and welcome back to Episode Club. Today we're going to be talking about Carnival Row Season 1, Episode 3, Kingdoms of the Moon, and Episode 4, which is the joining of unlikely things. And joining me today is Johnny B. Crazy. How you doing, Johnny?
I'm doing pretty good. Not busy as usual, never doing anything. That's what I do. No, I'm having a good time. Covering Carnival Row, but Watchmen's about to come out. Still reading a song on the Ice of Fire like an idiot. Uh, Fire and Blood is in my dreams. Um, yeah, that's about it. I don't know, just studying and doing a bunch of stuff. Oh, Sir Duncan the Tall, the Sworn Sword is about ready to come out.
Ooh, yeah, that that looks very good. Because I know you've been doing that series for a while, and I'm happy you kind of came back to it because it's a good one, and I feel like you're gonna cover it very well. So yeah, we were covering Carnival Row today, and if you missed it, on the pod on our podcast, which we kind of co-host alongside with Justin Thomas, we covered Carnival Row, kind of all the characters, and a bit of the lore for season 1. So if you haven't, go check that out. Because that's kind of how we've kind of formatted Episode Club now. Is like we're just going to kind of correlate um, with what we kind of talked about. Just talk more about the highlights and stuff and some of our characters. So if you want to know more about their backstories, go check out the podcast because Johnny worked very hard on it, and go support Johnny's efforts with the podcast. But yeah, we're gonna talk about these 2 episodes, talk about the best bits, the highlights, so to speak, and yeah. So before we get kind of started, we'll shout out the people in the chat, which happen to be Johnny Be Crazy. I don't know this one because he said hashtag semen column and hashtag potions and lotions. So if you will listen to the podcast, and you'll know that reference. And we also have Aaron Bravosi Broadcast here, and me and Aaron are going to be working on something, and it's coming out soon. I know I've been saying that for a long time, but yeah. And Peter Griffin is also here. So, Johnny, what did you think about these 2 episodes overall? Um, uh, Before we kind of do a little deep dive in this.
They were pretty good, pretty good. The flashback episode was kind of slow, but I did enjoy it. We got to learn a little bit more about the lore, and the Fae culture, and you know how they are not as technologically advanced, but they're an older culture, seen as more primitive, but maybe they're just not. You know,
Mm. And then, the gratuitous Game of Thrones, at least for me, because they seem to have Game of Thrones C and D characters always seem to pop up. There was a interesting scene, and we get to see more of the relationship backstory with Philo and Vignette in episode 3, which was kind of nice. But you also get to see how he pretty much. It's almost worse. Like that. I feel like that's almost worse than what John did to Egret in terms of dumping the girl that he loves. It's just like, just have her tell her that I'm dead. just just cover yourself and tell her that I'm dead. And episode 4 was good because we also get visited by another Game of Thrones character. Pirate Pri shows up as a person connected to Philo. So that's quite interesting. And Dark Mother is in the chat, waving and giving kisses. So, um, yeah. So, with the flashback episode, because we see young Philo, this is about 7 years in the past, and we see him being kind of a guard in what you can consider the military, and come to Turnanock, and is basically becoming one with the fairies. and this is where he meets Vignette, and they kind of really start their relationship because he goes exploring and finds the library, which holds. I know we kind of talked about this briefly last week, but the library that holds the oldest book that is seemingly known, and related to the title of the episode. So, do you want to talk about the book and kind of that whole part of the show, because that's the main kind of focus of episode 3.
Yeah, the book that they find about the hybrid fairy child or fairish, and I guess it's a sweet story. They talk about how it coming back around and the and the they talk about it coming back around and how romantic it is. But it's a very sad story. This guy washes up on shore, and a sailor that is saved doesn't know where he is. Your classic story. So of course he bangs the Queen of Crows, and you gotta love that name. We'll see how much more crows get into it because isn't the Black Raven is the name of the gang as well. So see if there's any connection to Three-Eyed Ravens or not. Just kidding. But the Farish are like the Farish are like
Lemon
people don't
chicken.
know what's going on with lemon chicken. The Farish I can't. I don't even know what I'm saying now.
You're talking about the library with the book in the library, which Vignette was charged with protecting.
Oh yeah, so the Farish, the Fae or the fairies, you can say that they're akin to the children of the forest in this show, but not quite the same. They don't have any type of green sight. Well, I don't know. They kind of do. Depends on the
Yeah.
witches, the woods witches you have there. If you got a good set of, I don't know, goat entrails, you might get your fortune read.
Or bears. Because the bear was a big thing. Um, but so basically, Philo goes into this cave and he comes across the library, but Vignette's about to um, slash his throat before she kind of tells him a bit about the backstory and how there's this book that's about 700 years old, and it details kind of like the first story that seemingly written down, because there's the belief that the books that the fairies made predate the books of the humans, and in this one it talks about how, like you said, the explorer and the fairy queen had a son, and then the sailor went off to, or went home and left the fairy queen and her son, and the son spent his entire life trying to figure out where his father was from, which we'll come back to around because of because it connects later on in the story, and Philo comes up with his own story that's very similar, but it I think revolves around a daughter. So, which is
Yeah, I mean, with the book as well, going back on that, a little bit of their ancient history, and the last time we see that, and this is tens of thousands of books, and it's a library, but it's a vertical library. It just goes up and up and up, and vignettes flying through, and she's like, "Oh, this one right here." But whatever, we won't get to that. That's your TV for you. Um, and we see it closed off. The last thing we see once the pact invade with their what would you their Led Zeppelin, Joe.
uh-oh. I don't know if it's me or not. So,
Of course, I dropped. Am I back now? Okay.
yes.
They invade with their Led Zeppelin, Joe. Okay. And they drop them bombs, and it basically, she shuts it in, sand falls in it later, but you got to stick a pin in that because this comes back to bite everyone in the ass. And this is kind of where we get the secret reveal. It's not that far into it. You would have think they would have held the fact that he is a fairy out a few more episodes.
Yeah.
What you think about that? Because we got it all in that same sense. We
Yeah,
got
because
fairy orgasms, we got fairy reveals, and apparently there's no fairy babies. But maybe one
no.
day.
Yeah, because they really kind of show us the entire stint of their relationship in one episode, which was quite interesting. Yeah, because he comes back and to the cave where she seemingly always is, and they get it on. Not as elegant or as I don't know what am I saying, but like basically a lot of TV shows now, cave sex scenes. Which I mean, can you knock them? No, uh, but at the same time, it's quite interesting. And you got glowy wings,
Hey, they've
which I
been
guess.
doing cave sex scenes since the beginning of time. Since cavemen, they've been writing sex scenes on cave walls.
But
Don't get it twisted.
but like now it seems it's like a more of a thing, and yeah, she got glowy wings, and I don't know if it's because it's like on when we talk about it on Cylon Johns, if it's so the like I forget like the when it's bad, but I feel like for that it's good. And then we find out obviously that Philo had his wings cut off when he was a little kid. So his mom, because his mom didn't want him to be known as a fairy, and she sent him away, which is very sad. And
And something too. Vignette does not reveal her age here, which makes me think she's got to be at least a couple of 100 years old.
Melisandre.
No. But she could be like 40, 50 years old, really, because the fairies live a little longer. And, we go through the hair locks she has. They have I need to look into this into Celtic or Irish mythology. It's got to come from one of those over there, probably Irish, since the fairies, this is what they're based off of. They even have an Irish accent. And you have the locks of hair. One is her birthday. One is the one she's supposed to give away when she gives away her heart. And what was the other one? There was
The
one
lover's
more.
one? Because she has one that she cuts off in the first episode, and it's for, like, her lover or
That was the
something.
widow
The
one.
widow's one?
The widow. There was another one we have there. But I do want to say, Steve York's here, and he said, hello, hello. And, I know he would appreciate that.
Yeah,
And
or,
I'm hungry and thirsty. I'm not going to argue with that.
yeah, our friend in the north, the Ned Stark, trying to be. But, yeah, I have to remember what one it is. I can't remember any of it, because I'm like, because she has short hair, and then it's just always like a rat tail braid that just seemingly comes. But yeah, they have the lovers embrace, and pretty much the war begins to the pack comes, and he's like, can't break up with her. She can't come with me. Like, I can't keep her with me, so I have to break up with her.
Well, I
And
mean, he kind of didn't want to. They agreed to go off together, right? To, oh my gosh. Ignata?
yes,
That's it,
yeah.
Ignata. Which is on the other side of Fey land of Ternanock. It's all the way to the east side of the map. If you go to the Fan Pod Facebook or the Fandom 3 Facebook, you can go check out the map to Carnival Row and check out our podcast while you're there. And it's probably one of the biggest land masses, at least definitely on the west side. Lots of different beings come from there, even beings we haven't met yet, like the Naga, and it's just a very interesting place. So I hope they do go there one day. Now, this is where I think whatchamacallit, Imogen and them go, but that's getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
But if they do go there, that would be fucking cool because that's
Mm-hmm.
where most of the Fae come from. Except for
That'd be interesting.
centaurs. Centaurs come from the same place humans do.
Mm-hmm.
On this, for some reason I can't remember the name of it now. I'll find it though.
Yeah. Um, they're all
Oh yeah, Messagia.
yes.
Dear.
Everybody in the chat's now using food emojis.
Thanks, y'all. That's how you feed the hungry right there. You guys are changing lives.
Using drink and burger and fry emojis. you know. Um, but yeah, he basically feels like instead of taking her with him and creating this big plan, he has to break up with Vignette, and it's not just like I'm leaving type of thing. It's basically say that I was killed pretty quickly in this war, and be covered in supposedly my blood and tell her about it. Like, that's harsh. Like, if all of like the TV mystical breakups, like that's pretty harsh. It's like, I'm dead, but I'm not at the same time. And I think Tourmaline is the one that even suggests it. She's like, what are you gonna do with her? Are you gonna break up with her or whatever? And that kind of.
Well, Tourmaline wants to get back with her too. She's still in love with her, and I fully support that relationship.
Peter Griffin has a question. Where did Tourmaline LaRoe come from? They got some green side abilities.
Well, they were running from the war, and I don't remember exactly what she said. It is kind of vague, but maybe she is some kind of secret spy. But the Pact, they don't really. They hate Fae. They want to terminate, hunt them out to extinction, and they also they're looking to colonize. They're very imperialistic, and they want to dominate whatever they can. Basically, you can think of them like I don't know, maybe the Germans in World War II. Trying to think of other stuff, even maybe like Alexander the Great and his empire.
Yeah,
But
there's.
Alexander the Great at least integrated a little better and assimilated with the cultures, you know what I mean? These people, no joke. And, we find out in this episode, I don't know if this is too much of a segue, but about the Morocks. Is the Morocks? Or the werewolves?
Yeah.
Pretty sure they're called
No, it's
Morocks
around
in
the
here.
same time because the other scene between Philo and Vignette mentions the human story of the moon and the human and the fairy going to the moon. So yeah, and he's like in that storyline a little bit because he's on the other side. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, little known fact. Peter Griffin meant Piety Breakspear. Little known fact, Piety Breakspear is Baylor Breakspear's sister.
Baylor.
Anyways. That's why she gets her head crushed in. I don't know. She doesn't. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Where did she come from, though? Where did she go? Where
Nobody
did she come
knows.
from? Cotton Eye Joe. Who knows?
I feel like well, she's a human with like fairy abilities, so maybe she's half blood as well. You never know. Just got them wings chopped off. You never know. Or like, what is it? 3/4 human and one
Well,
quarter
there's
fairy.
something up with her because we haven't seen female witches, and she apprenticed
Nope.
under. I can never remember that crazy woman's name.
Hospix.
Hospix? Hospix?
Yeah.
Whatever. And she's just crazy. She's the one that made the Dark Asher for Philo in this out of a catfish that we see in the episode 4. And then, she's just been doing all stuff, hashtag semen golem. And Piety Breakspear trained under her, and she's the one that, well, I don't know, spoiler territory. Anyways, she has some magical abilities, so I wouldn't put it past her to. Well, she at least is good at witchcraft, and it's a good time of year for her too, right?
Yeah, fall time, spooky season, as people call it on social media. Um, but yeah, we get the introduction of the werewolf type creatures in this, and that was kind of scary, like for me, because I was watching this episode the first time I watched it. I was like right around the time I was going to bed, and I was like, "Oh hell no!" I was like scared for like 5 seconds about the werewolf transitioning thing. I was like, "This is please don't make this too scary," but then it was fine. Um, but yeah, like I think we talked about on the podcast, it's not very romanticized the way when the werewolves transition, like in Twilight, where Jacob just jumps through the air and then he's just seemingly a werewolf. Like this shows more a realistic perspective of a human transitioning into the I can't remember how to pronounce it, but the werewolf type characters.
Morok.
Yeah, the
The
Mara.
Morok.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Got the wolf's curse, and it's a normal thing, right? The full moon rises. Here comes the werewolf, but the pact has this serum that forces it on, that forces on the change, and that's something that we see, and that puts an X factor in there because the wolves or the Moroks, werewolves, they're considered Fae, which all magical creatures in this world are called Fae, and they are more of a disease. And then you have the pack that just basically wants to hunt all Fae to extinction using themselves as Fae, like because it seems like they even volunteer for this for the curse, and but it is definitely a curse that you don't want to have. So I'm excited to learn more about what's going on with the pack because they seem to be involved in the dark art somehow, and it's not just that they hate magical creatures. Well, they're not even magical
Yeah.
creatures. What the hell am I talking about? I got to stop it because these are beings from lore that but they're not. There's nothing magical about them. It's fantasy realism, which the best fantasy usually. You know.
Mm. Isn't that
Besides,
just
I did watch Monty Python, and
Monty Python?
good God, I swear that is Game of Thrones before there was Game of Thrones.
John St. Baptiste is in the chat.
What's up, JS? Baby.
Or Junior
Baby.
Junior Sausage Biscuit is in the house.
No, just a sausage biscuit.
Just the sausage biscuit.
Junior bacon cheeseburger.
Yeah. But, yeah, they got I forgot what I was gonna say for a second. Yeah, they have the Marlock in this, and they don't have many. There's like not really a representation of them, but minus like the one or two that we are introduced to in this episode, which I feel like moving forward, they may introduce more, which wouldn't be expand the world a little bit, but yes. And I also think with the pact that isn't that what is it the best cover up is to to try and kill all of the fae and the fairies, but also at the same time want all of their powers, basically, because that's what they want. They want the fairy like magic abilities, but they want it for themselves and not for other people to have them. It's one of those things about humans. They're just like, why do you do that? But at the same time, eh. But I think.
Yeah, who the hell knows at this point? I mean, you have a lot of contention there too between the soldiers that are there kind of fighting for the Fae. Most of them don't like the Fae at all, don't understand them. You see this exacerbated here, and yeah, the Berg's starting to lose. The Bergish people are starting to lose the war, and they're You know, they're pulling out of there, and you know what happens when people pull out of a war-torn country that's not theirs. It gets, you know, usually the innocents are the ones that suffer, and we see that happen first and foremost.
Peter Griffin, I missed this. Peter Griffin had the question of, are they wolf born, or are they made into a wolf? I think they were made into a wolf. If I'm pretty sure that's how they explained it on the show. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because it was something about like treatments that they were receiving that was like making them into them, I believe. Unless I'm mixing mythology here. Okay. The small folk always get the shaft. Yes. And they do. I, if there's any more questions about this before we move on to more of the human story, because the humans, man, they're getting some interesting story in this episode, because I think it's this episode that we get introduced more or less to Sophie Rittersport. No, not Sophie. Yeah, and that
Who the
relationship.
hell is that?
Rittersport. No, longer Prada.
Longerbane.
This is what. Oh my god! I keep doing.
Longerbane, right?
Yeah, yeah. The longer bane and
Longerbane. The opposition, I guess you could call them the Republicans if you want to get just, I don't know, the conservatives. There you go.
yeah.
They're more for people, not about helping the
Other
Christians, as they're called, or the Fae, to help their own people. They're worried about, you know, stuff getting taken from them, you know, overcrowding, not being enough opportunity for everyone. On the other side with the break spears, it's a little more pro critch or pro Fae, but it's still a little shaky on both sides. And then you have yeah, Sophie, right? The shut-in daughter that's only had books to read her whole life, and well, she's had plenty enough time for a master plan. I'll tell you that much without going into it any further.
yeah, yeah, because she has no mother, so she's stuck with her father and a bunch of books. And her dad's like, no, no higher education, because that's not a woman's place or whatever. And you're just like, um, and she's like, I already read all the books two or three times over, and yeah, you know that she's already hatching a plan, especially when we go into kind of the next episode. Um, and basically, her father, yeah, is the leader of the opposition, and he's suspected of kidnapping Jonah, who is the Chancellor Breakspear's son, which is kind of the catalyst for these couple of episodes. And there's some problems that are going on with that, and basically the Chancellor kind of sort of kidnaps him back and wants a confession. And if you know anything about this show, is or you don't, that everybody's favorite actress, Alaria Sand, plays the Chancellor's wife, and she kind of seeks her revenge in some aspect by because when she goes to go and speak to him, she doesn't really get any information because she knows all the information about where her son is, which dun 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 should be raising a bunch of red flags about this character, because how does she not how does she know that where her son is if he's supposedly missing? And man, that actress lives up to that role, because she also poisons him as well. So he's out of the picture, and just makes the opposition weak because they don't have their leader.
Yeah, I mean, it creates a power vacuum, and like he just made a fool of himself. He could not handle himself. So it gets handled like you said. He pulls the kidnapping on the kidnapper, or so he thinks. Then we get straight through there, and well, we find out Mommy's been doing it the whole time. Poor little son realizes his mom kidnapped him as soon as he gets into his father's embraces, and he hears those high heels of Ilaria Sand coming for him, right?
Yeah, he's just like, oh, it's like my mother kidnapped me, but he obviously doesn't say that. It's like my daddy is protecting me, kind of thing, and that's a big catalyst for the fourth episode. Is how does Jonah deal with the fact that his mother was the one responsible for kidnapping him? Like that's psychologically like quite damaging. The fact that you went and you visited Tourmaline and then you got kidnapped by a bunch of people and then were held captive in this room, and lo and behold,
You think Tourmaline had anything to do with that? Like, going back to what Peter Griffin said when he says, as for Tourmaline, I still don't trust her. And he makes a good point, okay? Like, I love Tourmaline. Maybe it's because she's really hot, but if you watch how she acts, the facial expression she makes, she almost reminds me of Lucille Ball, and something like how you can see every bit of emotion on her face. It's over exaggerated, but for her, it just seems like that's truly her personality. Like, she has just a larger than life personality. On that note, a larger than life personality like that, well, maybe they have some scheming in play. She seems to have not known what happened to him, but she didn't really tell anybody about it. And when they talked about it in this episode, she seemed to have this look on her face because she started to say something to Philo and then got cut off as well. So it does have me interested because, spoiler alert, they're going to be in Carnival Row next season as well. So we'll see what happens with that. That's not really a spoiler. It's called Carnival Row, but whatever.
Yeah, unless the show was a one season show, then that would make sense. But yeah. Bye, John. Yes, watch this show.
You'll enjoy it, John.
Yeah, because what's not to like? Fairies having sex in this episode specifically, and a couple episodes before then. But yeah, that'd be interesting if Tourmaline knew much more than just was someone who just had their bedmate for the evening just get snatched out of thin air.
Yeah, he walks outside, they kick him in the nuts, he goes down, and they put a sack over his head and take him off. I mean, she just sleeps right through it and draws a picture of him the next day, draws a creepy portrait.
Yeah, well, yeah, especially after having some fairy sex, interesting.
Peter Griffin says Johnny looks like he's been maxing out on the bench. Yeah, that's me and my horny goat phase right there. Got my nips out. I need to move my suspenders over because I'm got a little nip slip action going on. They call me Janet the Satyr. doing my halftime show right now. I don't know what is wrong with me.
Man. Yeah. Well, you always find it very interesting pictures. You just change your personalities every couple times. With the Avatar pictures. Yeah. Yeah, and Jonah, he comes back home. And, yeah, mommy issues. It's like, that's not gonna be good. When that happens, and if
Stop thinking about the satyr nips, can you?
No, and then the Peter
Stare at
also.
my nipples. Let them hypnotize you.
Well, then also Peter says Phil Nippleson pudding free.
Phil Nippleton's the best left nipple I've ever seen in the game. Phil Nippleton putting for eagle.
But yeah, I think that with the Chancellor and the fact that he's just kind of like the only person to steal my kid is the leader of the opposition. And didn't the bear die in this episode, or was it the last episode that the bear was killed? Because he had a bear that was a
Two,
pet.
wasn't it?
Yeah, and because I remember, and I think it was the other episode. She's like, I hated the damn bear. So yeah, there's
Nothing. Like she got her to trick her, and I don't know. It works out pretty cool because that old fairy witch, which I'll never be able to say her name right. They just need to give her a different name. She can see glimpses of the future and stuff, but it's like some real future seeing. She can't really even change it. She just sees it. So it's kind of haunting actually.
yeah.
But then she goes and does the semen golem in this episode, I guess.
She
Did we already talk about that?
a little bit. Well, because she's like kind of knocks Philo out, and she's like, "I need your seed." And it's just like, okay, what?
She turns into Vignette, and he wakes up with his pants unzipped, like, and he just keeps fumbling to try to get his pants zipped back up, and then there's just like she's got this jar of semen, just like
That's a
making some
lot.
kind
Like,
of witch's brew. Yeah, it was so much, you guys, that she had to have knocked Philo out for at least 2 days and just kept pumping it out of him. It was at least 8 ounces of semen, or just Orlando Bloom is a very, very impressive man.
yeah,
I don't know.
and yeah, it was just like when she's like pouring all of it. It's just like that. Wait, what? Like even I was just like, wait, that's not supposed to happen.
And then what was really messed up is she was making cinnamon rolls, and that was the icing. It was like, dude, you feed that to your grandchildren.
Or the little kids that come visiting, because she's also the part-time. What is it? The witch in Hansel and Gretel.
What does volume wow mean? Is my volume wowed, or is it loud? Or are you talking about? Oh, you got it on. Hopefully, there aren't kids listening. This stream is rated R. For rah.
Well, Dark Mother's like laughing, so that's all that matters.
Yeah.
But she gives the catfish, and basically, she kind of feeds the catfish.
The volume of the scene. See, that was even too smart for me, bro. The volume of the scene. Yes, that was a high volume. My God, let me shut up about semen. What is happening?
But
I'm sorry.
basically, she feeds it to to the catfish, and she says that that it won't die unless he dies. So that'll come back to haunt us probably in season 2 about that, because watch, then it'll have like Philo type personalities where it's just like moping and I don't know.
Moping. He is kind of a Jon Snow type character. He's brooding about his heritage, his whole life. Where's my mommy and daddy? What am I gonna do about it? I heard the song my mom sung once, and now it haunts me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, the hairstyle.
I bought a catfish to make an eternal friend with, and then I had that crazy witch lady chop that thing in 3 pieces and put it in a jar. Where the hell is it now in season 2? The world may never know, but I tell you what, there's a big catfish out there that people call One-Eyed Willie, and they think it's a world record. It may, in fact, just be Philo's Dark Asher / Semen Golem. Who knows? But whatever you do, if you catch that fish out in your local river, do not eat it.
Oh my God.
That's all. That is all.
Well, also he too like has Philo's very much like a fucking why do we keep doing this? But we keep comparing the Game of Thrones stuff. But he has pretty much like Jon Snow. He also has the haircut. He has a cave sex scene, and he's like,
He even cuts his hand, and he has a bandage on his left hand the whole time.
he has to leave his lover and make him think that he's dead at the same time.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for her to die in his arms from a. Well, I guess it would be like a wing with fairies. As man, I can't even think right now. I got loud ass noises going on over here, and my nips is popping out, and talking about volume. I don't even know. Okay, but get us back on track, Sasa. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Y'all
So
share this out. Like, share, subscribe.
yes,
Shut the hell up.
yeah, for more tomfoolery like this, just come back anytime. Anytime we come out with a live stream, but usually it's Wednesdays. But yeah, we got basically that Longer Bane is now dead, and that's kind of where we like leave off
You son of a bitch.
with episode 3. There's kind of yeah, and that also yeah, because Philo wants to also talk to Vignette, but she's kind of like now, and that's where we kind of leave off with that episode a little bit. And we get another flashback. This is in the 4th episode, and it's Philo as a young child. And Philo basically watches his, I think it's his headmaster. It's basically
No, that's not Philo as a young child. That's
the little boy in the
I see how you got. Yeah, it's just a rando little boy.
Oh right, because he was.
And that's at the orphanage that Philo grew up.
Oh,
We haven't
right,
even
yeah.
talked about the martyr, but I gotta look into that. It's a Christ-like figure, but instead of him being on a cross, he's hanging from the noose. I'm not trying to laugh about it, but it is kind of absurd how they did that. But it's funny. They call him the martyr.
Yes.
And it's just kind of a parallel to Christianity. But beside the point, yeah, that was at the orphanage where Philo grew up. Because remember, they go and investigate it.
Yeah, now I remember. I got confused for a
It's okay,
second.
we watch lots of shows and read lots of books.
And some animal type creature attacks what we can assume is the headmaster, and this kid's basically now scarred because this now person is dead, and Philo, obviously being the constable, has to go investigate, and he meets up with some impressive people, including the guy that we all know as Pri. And he's in this episode, and you're just basically like, what is this with these Game of Thrones side characters that keep showing up in this show? And
Looking for a Khaleesi. Your dragons, Khaleesi, the queen.
we better go look for Imogen, because that was supposed to be Danny.
We need your babies. Yeah, I mean, he shows up there. You can tell that he's not really saying anything, and this is kind of where he finds out about the bodies, right? And he's just the priest has been turning a blind eye to where the bodies go to, basically, or knows of a priest that does that. And they can't really lie, but they can, like, sins of omission were talked about right here, which a sin of omission is where basically you're not lying about something, but you choose to not to tell someone something, which just as bad, I guess, if they find out. But if you can trap him in the right trick and ask him directly about it, he can't lie to you. So it's a good little tool to have.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because in this episode they start to piece together who are all the people that are being killed and all of the who's having their liver being taken out and who's not. Which again is a Shakespeare reference,
Bada bing.
which we'll probably talk, which we'll talk about, I guess, in the second edition of the Fandom Day podcast, where we talk about more about the lore, a bit about the references for that. But yeah, because in if you don't know, in the world of Carnival Row, the liver tells all the secrets about a person, which is quite interesting. Um, and so they have, yeah, that. I'm sorry, I'm just filed for a second. They have that like investigation because that kind of leads throughout some of this episode, and we also get the Black Raven storyline kind of come back in with Vignette and
Dahlia.
Dahlia. And you have a theory about that.
Now there's a girl named Una, the little girl that's Vignette's kind of friend in there, that tells her old buddy wants to bang her or something like that. And Una is from a name of a fairy from a legendary movie called Legend with Tom Cruise by Ridley Scott. Oh, it's also got Tim Curry that plays the darkness in it. And it's really good. It's really good. You should go check that out. Cult classic.
Also, Una, I believe, is the actress. The name of the actress, Una Chaplin, who played what's her face, Talissa.
That's crazy. There's Una characters, Una Chaplin, and Unas. Una's everywhere, yo.
Una, not like sorry. Um, yeah, and the Black Raven storyline is quite interesting. It's like, what is this ravens and all of these like Queen of the Ravens and all of this stuff. It's like if there was a woman who was leading the Black Brothers at the wall. It's like the Queen of the Ravens, and basically because Vignette's playing a spy, but if she doesn't succeed in her task, she gets her wings chopped off because the way that because they don't try and dunk them underwater, they hold them by their wings and lead them over the edge. In terms of that's how they threaten their own kind, which that'd be scary and that'd hurt too at the same time.
Like, I'll just take your wings, you asshole. I don't, she's a little too intense for me though, honestly. Mm-hmm. Like I don't even know. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, all right, she is a super asshole. Why are people staying there? What do they get out of this? Doesn't seem like Vignette is really making that much money or anything. Why do they feel so beholden to this? You can say it's for the cause. What she says is supposed to happen, like the cause. She has these ideals that she tells people that I guess sound okay, but then she just always threatened to kill everyone. So I don't know. It doesn't That's the one thing that doesn't translate that well to me, I would say, is the Black Raven and Dahlia.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's like, sorry for all the noise. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I think it needed a bit more fleshing out of that sort of storyline because, spoiler, but not really a spoiler, like the Black Raven storyline doesn't really stick around very much. It's just there and then it kind of goes away. So it was like a splash in the pan almost with that. And yeah, it could have been developed more, and I know Johnny has a theory, even though it's kind of a little bit ties to the real world, but because her name's Dahlia and the Black Ravens.
Alright, so don't know why I can't remember who they think the Black Dahlia murderer is, but I'll remember this by the next one, I promise. But
it's
basically, Yeah, it's a doctor. I can't remember his name. He did it in his bathtub, all the stuff. The house is still haunted to this day. Uh, Lots of shows have been in there and stuff. It's pretty damn creepy. Anyways, it dismembered bodies. She was found. The Black Dahlia's famous case. She was an actress or an actor that wasn't well known. She was kind of an up and comer, and they found her cut in half, and then she basically had the Joker smile on her face. It's pretty awful. You can look up pictures if you want, if that's your thing. It's pretty messed up though. And since we had in season one the mimic Jack the Ripper killings, which the only they only diverted from it that they killed men too. Jack the Ripper
Mm-hmm.
only killed women, and they may divert a little bit too, but I wouldn't doubt if we start seeing people ripped in half. Finding bodies ripped in half in season two, and that's not even a spoiler for season one.
No.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, that'd be quite interesting for this show to kind of each season pick up like a more, even though it's kind of weird to say it, but like pretty gruesome type killings. Like, and especially one, there's usually like the one ringleader of it too. Like, have pick one. Because it seemingly works very well, and there's probably some historical maybe reference to like in terms of literature about cutting people in half and all of that. But who knows?
The torso murders is what they were called.
But yeah, there's probably something related to that. But yeah, the Black Ravens, nah. But it's kind of interesting to have a menacing character, or trying to be menacing.
Yeah, I mean, the dude that knew about the bodies, that gave Philo, that was Philo's contact. He ended up having to give her up. Tourmaline comes to Philo, and, this is where Tourmaline is a good friend again. She seems to be a good friend, but I can see where Peter's coming from, how she can possibly be up to no good. But she tells Philo about the Black Ravens, what's going to happen, and basically that he's got to give up his contact for her. She's going to die. And he does it. He does it reluctantly. They'd already had a couple of fights here at this point, but he still does it. And Tourmaline saves her again because he ends up showing up right at the nick of time and shooting the dude. I don't know what she was thinking about how she was trying to surprise him. She turned him around, told him to close his eyes. Like, she seduced him somewhat. I don't know. It was kind of a sloppy attempt, but she didn't take the easy route. She stood like 10 yards behind him and then pulled out the knife and made a threat and then ran at him, and they flew off the side of the building. Now, you could argue she should have just like straight up stabbed him and not walked away from him because he was just standing there with his eyes closed. But for cinematic effect, they kind of fought in the air, and somehow he's twice her size, but they're the same strength. Still trying to figure that one out. He falls to the ground. She gets to the ground, wakes up, gets the shit beat out of her with a shovel, and almost gets her head cut off with gardening shears, which seemed pretty cool at the time. But Philo comes in with the cheesy line because the guy's over vignette. I'm going to see how slow I can kill you. Philo comes in. Too slow. Bang. Shoots him in the heart. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Episode 4 was not the strongest.
No.
Even the more I talk about it, I am not talking myself into that to episode 4.
Yeah.
What is up, AK? Good to see you.
Hey, AK. Yeah, the episode 4. Yeah, the only thing is that makes you go, huh? Is the later stuff and the fact that Pre just shows up and is in charge of a bunch of small children. It's like that just makes you go, huh? Yeah, the fighting with the in the garden, and then they throw him down like a water well, and then it just like goes into just the water and like out to sea. It's like, where's the body go? Out to a river and then out to sea. It's like a guy that probably weighs probably at least 200 pounds. Like, that's, just gonna rely on rushing water. And
I mean, he might float. He floats like a turd with all the other turds out into the drinking water, because back then, I mean, there's still towns that do it in America to this day that just let the shit water flow right into the ocean or the river. I'm pretty sure that it still happens everywhere, but it was very prevalent then. That's why no one drank water. You only drank beer, wine, anything of that nature. It was even worse. Like in the times of Westeros, you do have a better chance of going in a stream. Well, in Westeros, you have a better chance of drinking from a stream and not getting a disease, unless you're near a big city like King's Landing or Lannisport and all this fucking noise in here. I'm gonna kill these people, and and you got shit in the water, but that is what
dead
it is. Now you
bodies.
got dead bodies are like the worst thing. I think that's one of the things that helped kill off the Mayans because the cenotes, which are these big sinkholes that are beautiful bluish blue water. They would throw sacrifices down there. They'd sacrifice people and throw them down in the bottom of that, and that was their drinking water. They think it ended up being tainted. You can't really know for sure exactly what happened, but there are theories about what happened to the mines. I
Why
think
do
there's
I?
a bunch of different things at one time, but there's still
Yeah.
like millions and millions of Mayans still alive, so it's a myth that they're dead. Um, their massive civilization didn't last like the big ass cities, but they
Yeah.
lived on.
It makes me think that that guy's gonna show up as a corpse next season. And it's like, explain this! And it's like, because it's like a dying from a gunshot wound. Or whatever. It's like, explain this. Um, so to speak. Because I don't know. Because it seems like he'll be found somewhere. Not just gonna go out to sea and then be like, bye bye, like never see you again. But who knows? Um, but AK says early on biowarfare. I guess so. Yeah. Only the fit
And
survive.
food for Philo's dark asher catfish, more than likely. It's just gonna what if the catfish gets in the water and then it absorbs the body of that dude and it turns into Catfish Man, and then I figured this out, guys.
Catfish man. Da da
mark
da.
mark the date and time of this
So
revolutionary theory.
October 16th at around 9:30. Um, but yeah, I think we kind of covered half of the about it. Um,
We covered a lot. We covered a
then
lot.
we're just missing the whole Ezra and Imogen, and then um the longer Bane kind of thing a little bit, where it's like, no, it's not in this episode. It's much later, but um, let me just recheck. But Imogen
I,
and Ezra, and basically them kind of Imogen being kind of recognized a lot with what's his face, As Master. I'm trying to remember how to pronounce his name. Jesus, because there's so many names in my head. Oh, Agris.
wait,
Agris.
hold on. I just had it and you messed me up by saying that. Oh my god. Oh my god. I don't know. Ezra. It's Ezra.
Yeah, but then
Ezra's
the
the
punt
brother.
guy, and then there's
The
the
punk
guy.
guy is uh Andreas. God
Andreas.
dang it.
Okay.
Why you do this to me? Help! I don't know what I'm talking about anymore.
It's
Alright, hold on, I got it right here. It's Agrius Astraeon. These sons of bitches trying to get these complicated names. Just come on. Where's some some Dick Tracy's and
Jon Snow.
I don't know about Jon Snow. That name is
But
cursed. Name is cursed to never do anything. Just wasted talent and potential is what the epitome of the name Jon Snow is. At this point, unless the books ever get finished, that is yet to be determined. Fight me.
I'm not fighting you on that one. Um, but yeah, they talk about how they need to make a loan. Him, Ezra, and Imogen, and then Imogen decides, well, I'll just invite him over for tea and see what happens with that. And I think I used the GIF that's from that part of the episode on Twitter, and it's basically her eating. I think it's some sort of cake, and she,
It's
it's the
lady fingers.
yeah, and basically she's trying to bribe this man into giving them money, and he's just like no. Um, but it's
Yeah, I mean, it's trying to get ingratiated with the people and be accepted as normal, and it's just really tough. They're not dealing with it. They're not they don't feel like a puck or any type of critch, which is the racist term for any fae. I'm just gonna repeat that a couple times so everybody knows what the hell I'm talking about.
mm-hmm.
Uh, they don't see them as equals. They see them as lesser beings. So that's gonna permeate throughout the entire series. We see that with Philo later, which I'll just mention this because it's not really a big deal. He takes Portia on a date, and Portia is a human woman and one thing he says to her at first, he says, "I've chosen a world," or at least he thinks he has. But back to the matter at hand, Imogen and Ezra. What is that Dornish wench? My Watchmen co-host. We're gonna have fun doing that. So y'all be on the lookout for some Watchmen stuff going on my channel with the Dornish wench. No pressure. We're gonna get the Fandom Desane on if we get the time right. He told me I gotta call his people to call my people to call his people, but I'm gonna get in touch with Fandom Desane if I can.
You
I
mean
have I
Fandom D
have
Bird Flu?
Phantom D Bird Flu. I have talked to him though, but we gotta yes.
Because that name's not going away anytime soon.
Hashtag Bricaris. Um, God, I will remember that forever. Um,
For cars.
oh yeah, Imogen and Ezra. No, Agreus, Agreus, Imogen and Agreus, and Ezra. Anyway, they're all trying to ingratiate themselves. Imogen doesn't think she can do it. She finally, wait, this is where she finally does it, right? No, 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 no.
No, he leaves because he
This is
feels.
the one where the 3 cups of sugar and all that. She's trying to propose to Agrius. They don't have any money. She sees that he needs to be accepted in the social circles. He's not getting that right now, and she sees an opportunity for finances. Well, he misreads the whole situation and thinks he's being made a spectacle of, so that she can just gossip to her friends about him. I do gotta tell you this: he does have cojones, and I like the dude. Uh, Not necessarily for blowing shit out of proportion, but for standing his ground because he's used to being treated differently and used to not being treated equal, and he demands respect. Now he apologizes in this episode, right?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, he apologizes in this episode later, and they come to an accord. And one of the first things to seal the deal was you got to let me through your front door with all the neighbors looking.
Yeah, because she sent him through the servants' quarter, or the servants' door. Because she made like a spectacle of that the doors like the front hall is being redone. And he's like, I know that your front hall is not being redone. You liar. Because it's like you don't have the money to do this. So it's like why are you making the fakeness with that? And then I think
The fakeness.
the fakeness. Um, I think the last thing we have to cover is that um, Philo's kind of gotten back with Portia, the woman who's his what is it called? Landlord. Um, and
Yeah, she's a widowed bed and breakfast owner, except she's
yeah,
like your live-in cook and stuff. She's a live-in landlord. I don't know. It seems like a pretty good deal, honestly. Well, Philo had a really good deal because he was banging her and getting breakfast made for him at the
and
same
dinner.
time. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if he could, and he wasn't even having to take her on dates or anything like that. And damn, he done fucked up by trying to take her on a date now. And then doesn't he decide to tell her this episode?
Yeah,
Yeah, he
because
does. He fucking
yeah,
decides to tell her he's half fake. You know,
yeah,
just go ahead and freak her out.
yeah, because he's like the only reason why he takes her to dinner is basically A, to tell her who he actually is, but also B, because no one has served her breakfast and dinner before, so it's just no one serves her, so it's just like, I mean, that's a good idea, but at the same time it's like, come on. um it's like you gotta be like better, uh talk about something better than just that. It's like, just because no one's taken you to dinner before, it's just like, anyway. Tortoise wench, can you blame her?
Dark Mother, you going to bed? Z time? Z time? It's alright. We're about to end here shortly anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
This wasn't a jam-packed episode with 2 episodes with a bunch of information, but we do get far more information in later episodes.
Yeah, yeah, we got more info as we go. But yeah, that poor, I don't know if she's a poor lady, because she basically got to be with Philo basically for probably 7 years. Like, all the benefits of her
Well, I don't know if
relationship
they've
with
been
him.
together that long. They just He left Vignette 7 years ago. I don't know how long he's been living there, and we don't know how long she has been a widow. She's not that old,
No,
so we can think that it's had to have been a few years, though. You would
yeah,
think, and it seems like what they have been doing was still pretty fresh. It doesn't seem like something that had been happening for a long, long time. To me, anyway. Who knows?
yeah. Because in the earlier I think it was episode 2, she like sneaks into his room and she's like all naked and stuff, and he's like, "Please stop." I was like, "Go away." It's just like, what? So yeah, it's probably not that long that they've probably had a sexual relationship. Who knows? It's never discussed anyways, I don't think, later on. Anyway, but I think we've covered everything. So, Johnny, we didn't do this last week, but so far, what would you rate this show halfway through the season?
So far, what would I rate the show? Hmm. All right, so the first half, I'm gonna rate it a 7.5 fantasy fairy friggings.
Frackings?
Getting frigged by fairies. But now I'm only saying that. I know that's kind of low. The season as a whole is gonna be different. But if I have to judge just these first 4 episodes, these last 2 we watched were not that strong. They were okay, but I feel like you could have combined them to make one episode.
Yeah.
Honestly, they didn't need a whole episode for the flashback, unless there's some information that I didn't notice. There's, they could have shortened it a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's not bad.
No.
But for the whole series, I'll save that rating, but it's definitely higher than a 7.5.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you about the
No, pick
set.
your own rating.
No, no, but I agree with you with that. I feel like eh, it's good, but but what because we've watched the whole season, or series, as you say in the UK, um, that yeah, it gets better, especially like the last couple of episodes. You're like, whoa, but yeah, so 7.5. creatures in a cave. Creature cave loving. I don't know. But
I'll take that creature cave loving. I mean, everything's a creature. I'm a creature. You're a creature. We're all creatures up in Earth. All
so,
right.
what you got going on?
What do I got going on? So possibly Friday, if we get all our tech issues done, and I'm gonna have a traditional nooner show at the time, but we'll be talking about Watchmen with Dornish Winch and what we're expecting to see. If saw a newer preview today, and I'm really digging what I'm seeing from this so far, and so I'm gonna be brushing up on that. Maybe I can learn something in these next couple of days, but at the latest, it will be Monday. Um, and as far as me, Sir Duncan the Tall will be out shortly. I just got to finish the slideshow. It'll be there. It's a nice long quickie. Everybody loves a long quickie.
It's a drawn out quickie.
Hashtag long quickie.
It's a drawn out one too.
Alicia Kingston, I've enjoyed it. I'm about halfway through it, and it is very, very intriguing and tasty. I will be doing a little Patreon thing when I get done with it. But of course, I will be sending that to you too, AK.
The book review. Oh yeah, the book review that was promised with that one. Yeah, and then you got some other stuff coming up because we got to cover Expanse on the channel because that show's coming back, and Berserker Brunch eventually when that one comes back. So be sure to subscribe to Johnny if you haven't already, because why the heck not? If not, make a second account and subscribe to Johnny because he deserves it. But for me, what we got going on, same time, same place next week for episodes 5 and 6, which are, scrolling up, Grieve No More and Unaccompanied Fae. So those are the episodes we'll cover next week. Other than that, Derriere Debates is TBD. We'll come back with that eventually. And then we also have Cylon Johns on Friday, so go check out that episode. And other than that, I got some videos that I'm working on coming down. They'll be on Patreon first, and then they'll show up here. But yeah, so to shout out the lovely patrons of the channel, we have Bobbi Catalano, Catherine Harding, Katrin C, Nancy T, Dark Mother, and the podcast that.com, that family of podcasts. So yeah, we got that going on. Yeah, thank you so much, Johnny, for having me having you on with me.
Channel? Of course. I would let you come on your own channel anytime. Just make sure you ask me first.
Having you on with me, and thank you guys to the chat from Dornish Wench, Alicia Kingston, some guy named Johnny Be Crazy was also here in the chat. I don't know who he is. Dark Mother, Peter Griffin, Steve York. Make sure you go follow, subscribe to Geek Folk 1 on YouTube, and on you have Twitter and an Instagram and a Facebook. Well, the Facebook page. And I'm trying to remember if there's anything else.
We do. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and that's
YouTube.
about it, right? YouTube. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. I'll tag it some more times, but go check it out. Just put in Geek Folk One, it should pop right up.
Yeah. And then we got Peter Griffin, Bravosi Broadcasts, me and Aaron's special project that's been going on for months is coming to fruition. It's coming hopefully by the end of the month. So stick around for that. That'll be very good. I think it'll be on both of our channels at one point. So yeah, it'll be fun. And John St. Baptiste was in here earlier. Make sure you go check out his live streams. They're usually on Wednesdays before us. We didn't have one this week, but go check that out. As well as Danny McKay was also here. And I think we have everybody. Yep, we do. So, thank you so much, everybody. Alicia Kingston, I'll pass that on to him because it's cool. Wherever that, or pass that on to Johnny, I guess, because.
I can read.
But, thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week for Carnival Row, episodes 5 and 6. Bye, everyone. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. Bye-bye.